listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And, he's missing this week. Yes, our other regular host, the one, the only, Mr. Keith Cheatham, could not be here with us this week. He actually is overcoming a little bit of a sickness.
Yeah.
No, not the Delta variant.
No COVIDs.
No COVIDs. He's just got a headache.
He's got them allergies.
He's got them allergies. He was doing some backyard work this week and said he burned up a bunch of leaves and sticks and stuff, and he thinks it just flared up his allergies.
That'll do it. Every time I cut my grass now,
yeah,
it wreaks havoc on me like the next 2 days.
I bet. Well, actually,
sucks.
It's funny because I've got this. I got to take care of it too. I think they're all dead, but I think about you and those bees. Because out in my yard, I mow, and there's this old stump that's behind my shed that's just buried now. It's like the ground's over it, but there's this little hole. And one day I was mowing, and I pissed them off.
Yeah.
And one flew out and stung me on the ankle, and I immediately thought, I was like, man, there was that time Sean was telling us about those bees.
Dude,
that came out and
I was
stung
naked, almost naked, running away from them things.
You just running into the house.
And yes.
And screaming and yelling.
They got me 2 days later. They were still in my shirt.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I went out to the yard to pick the shirt up off the
and
they
were
driveway.
Still. They made a home.
Still in the shirt, and it stung me.
Like, I got some honey off my shirt. They made a hive.
Now they're yellow jackets.
Yeah, that's true. They don't even make.
They got a nest under there, and usually the nests are about the size of a football. Under the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
They're under the ground.
Graboids.
Graboids.
Keith's on here listening. He said I bet Brandon's sad he couldn't get rid of Sean tonight too. He likes to go solo.
Oh yeah, trust me. I'm glad that I'm not solo tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be.
I mean, it's almost just like you are like last time because you can look across the way at Keith's chair and he's not there.
That's right.
Just like he wasn't last time.
You
were looking at him like he was there.
Misconception on that. So I was looking at the camera up here. But my eye line looks like it's looking across the table. However, I stayed on the wide shot too long.
Yeah.
So then it did look like
that
I was
shot made you look like you were looking at the other
looking
end of the
at
room,
you two that aren't even over there.
We're not there.
Talking to ghosts, man.
Yeah. Keith says you're stupid. He said yellow jackets don't make honey.
I am. I'm stupid. You all know this. Why are y'all expect anything different?
Only thing yellow jackets are for is
stinging and killing.
Pain. That's it. They exist entirely because of sin.
Was Beedrill?
Is
that a yellow jacket?
Yeah.
That is? Okay.
That looks like a yellow jacket.
I'm just saying. Well, he's got those what are those horn hands? He's got the stinger hands.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, drills.
Yeah. Drills. Well,
Drill.
Beedrill. Right. Yeah. I'm stupid. But no, Keith also, I do want to give a special shout out to Keith, or actually more of a special prayer and concern. Yeah. The Cheathams are going through a rough time right now, him and his family, because of his grandfather is in the hospital. Mm-hmm. He actually suffered from a bout of COVID, went into the hospital about a week ago, a little over a week ago, and it then basically developed into pneumonia. He's 93 years old, so it was already going to be tough on him. And it seems like he is in very dire circumstances. And the Cheathams would definitely greatly appreciate any love, care, consideration, prayers that you can offer up to them. To our good buddy Keith, who's obviously with us every week on the show. This week he just unfortunately happens to be getting over some allergies, but he hopefully will be joining us next week, and hopefully with the Cheathams and everything that is going on with their family, they will be able to get through this and seek comfort from other family and friends. And if you're out there and you're part of our Red Moon community, reach out to Keith and his family and let them know you're thinking about them and send your prayers and well wishes. Mm-hmm. So Keith, we're with you, bud.
Yeah,
and we'll be there always. And we can't wait to have you back on the show next week. Because that empty chair and that moon shirt.
It don't feel right. I don't like it at all.
I mean, the moon shirt would probably just be in the same spot it's in now because he's forgotten it the last 2 weeks. Oh, what was that? Oh, and whoa. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Oh, no.
Who are you going to call?
Who you going to call? Keith Cheatham. He knows a little thing. He's with us here in spirit.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, but we do have a great show. We got a good review, Free Guy. We went and saw that this past week in IMAX. Still going to the theater, still loving it.
I didn't know where we were going from
there.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, because one of our headlines tonight is actually talking about, is cinema dead? Does streaming killing cinema? Mr. James Gunn has a comment or two on that. So we'll be talking about that in our headlines. And then, of course, we got our multimedia segment, which I do have to say we I think promised on a couple weeks ago that we were going to do The Chosen.
Chosen, yeah.
And none of us have watched it.
We've chosen not to until later.
So we're going to get to that on another multimedia week. That'll be down the road.
Yeah.
So, we'll do that at some point.
We keep having good ideas, though. So that's...
Yeah, we keep coming up with some new content.
With some good stuff every now and then.
But let's, I guess, dive right into it. We'll get into our review for this week. Here is Mr. Cheatham's review of Free Guy. The following is a review by Keith Cheatham. While COVID is still taking its toll on theaters and the box office, Disney has continued to do relatively well for itself, with their latest release through 20th Century Studios, Free Guy, beating box office predictions. The movie starring Ryan Reynolds is one that has seen its release date pushed back multiple times, but now that the film has released, it has garnered praise from critics and fans alike, and it's not hard to understand why. Directed by Sean Levy, Free Guy is the story of Guy, an NPC, or non-playable character, in the hottest video game Free City, a Grand Theft Auto-style game. Guy, played by Ryan Reynolds, lives the same day over and over by waking up, dressing exactly the same, going to work at the bank, where inevitably a player character from the real world will rob the bank. Rinse and repeat until one day, Guy meets Molotov Girl, the avatar for Millie Rusk, portrayed by Jodie Comer, who has been playing the game in order to find proof that Free City's creator, Antoine, played by Taika Waititi, stole the game's underlying code from her to develop the game. Millie is reluctantly assisted by Keys, played by Joe Keery, her former partner who helped develop the original code with her, and is now working with Antoine. After meeting Millie, Guy becomes self-aware, learning that he is an AI character inside the game. Determined to help save the only home he knows, he sets out to help Millie prove Antoine stole her code before he can shut down Free City forever. Free Guy has a solid story and premise, though neither are particularly original. Self-aware AI video game movies and characters discovering their lives are a lie, a la The Truman Show, have been done repeatedly. But Free Guy doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. Instead, it sets out to make its own path with a comedy full of laughs and a video game film that actually feels like it was made by people who understand video games. The story is simple, but does a great job of making sense of a lot of the video game and developer lingo for casual filmgoers, while not alienating actual techies who are familiar with many of the scenarios shown on screen. Ryan Reynolds, as the innocent and lovable Guy, has long perfected witty retorts, quips, and innuendo, and is a perfect lead for this film's self-referential humor and video game commentary. Those who stick around long enough to witness Reynolds' portrayal of Dude will find themselves roaring with laughter. Reynolds, however, isn't the only actor bringing humor to the table. Surprisingly, even supporting characters offer plenty of laughs, from the game's barista to Officer Johnny. There is plenty of smart humor, with Guy's best friend security guard Buddy, portrayed by Lil Rel Howery, standing out amongst the secondary characters. The film is not without flaws, however. There are still plenty of jokes that don't land. The film often tries to make woke jokes while also making fun of woke culture in many instances, and the blend doesn't always work. It also attempts a profound moment regarding the meaning of life and reality that carries none of the weight it was intended to, and falls back on Hollywood's old lifestyle ideas of just living in the moment is the only thing that matters. Despite this and those few annoying moments in the film where these instances pull you out of the experience, the movie is still a ton of fun, and these are more nitpicks than major gripes. By the film's end, I had laughed plenty, enjoyed myself, and most importantly, was surprised by a well-done scene with actual emotion and themes with insight. And while Free Guy may stumble halfway with its message about reality, it brings it home with its message about the real people who love you. I give Free Guy 3 out of 4 stars. 3 out of 4 stars for Free Guy.
Agreed.
And yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Keith hit the nail on the head there, and I think are we all going with 3 stars?
Yeah, I told you during the review, I kind of bordered with 3.5. I really enjoyed this movie.
Same.
Like, I mean, honestly, one of the only movies so far this year that I've legitimately
just had fun
enjoyed.
with. And
yes.
Exactly.
It was through and through, great pace, great story. How hard is it to do a video game story? I mean, it's really, there's not a lot of, most of the movies that are based on actual video games suck.
They're terrible.
And then, absolutely. But then you've got other movies kind of like that delve into that world, like The Matrix, which is good. It's thought out well, but even its story has kind of aged. But then you have the aspect of people looking in on another person or even an NPC it's kind of like the Truman Show with people looking in on a guy's life. And I really enjoyed the way that they spun this to where the NPC kind of becomes a social media sensation where it's just like, wow, this is an NPC, but it's thinking, it has emotions, it's growing in its intelligence and in its
that was
self-awareness.
kind of the part of the film that I thought it really resonated with me in a realistic sense of like you're saying. It's like if an NPC did somehow, like artificial intelligence was so well done that it developed this personality. Yeah. And became this living, breathing.
Know it's an NPC.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so for me, I was thinking, oh, crap, this is actually what I think would happen. I think people would catch on. And I kind of like that with, Taika Waititi's character of, at first he's like, no, this is good. It brings all the eyes to our game. Yeah. And then at the end, it's like, obviously for other, notoriously bad reasons, he ends up turning on that thought. And I thought the motivations of the characters were actual. They seemed real, and they seemed like, at first I thought the brainy whiz kid who kind of takes the corporate job with Taika Waititi, I thought he was going to be kind of one of the antagonists, and he turns out to be one of the unsung heroes. Right. And there were a lot of, I thought, paths that the characters took that were logical that also made them endearing in such, whether it was the characters in the game itself and in that world, but then also in the real world as well. Yeah. I mean, there were some typecast, kind of stereotypical, like the guy who really kind of seems in the middle, not really good, not really bad. I forget his name, but opposite the one that's at the beginning. Like, we got to get this guy, we got to nail him, like boot him from the game.
Then he turns towards the end, of course, redeeming himself.
And that I thought was a little bit, cheesy and kind of stupid. I thought they didn't want you to hate him, stuff like that, and then. The reason I will say, and I'd like to get your take on this too, that I knocked off a full star, believe it or not, was kind of, and Keith mentions it in the review a little bit and alludes to it, but the woke, kind of some of the woke jokes either land or sometimes I don't think they go too far enough for the fact that they don't want to offend or they're lightly, tap danced around. Yeah. And also the whole Truman Show aspect of what is the meaning of life, this NPC character who doesn't have a soul, who tries to figure it out. They're kind of, I think, crutch of depending on that age, or now it's age old for the last decade of the kind of the YOLO, you only live once and the here in the moment's all that matters. Right. And I thought that was kind of, I was like, for a movie that ambitiously takes on more than that and ends on a really high note of, I think, possibility of what what tangible real love is. I was like, that seemed pretty crappy to me that they don't really go further than that. That's really the extent. Now, granted, some could argue, oh, well, they're NPCs and that's all AI can ever figure up and conscientiously decide.
That's kind of where I was at with it. I understand what you're saying. I see that, but I think part of that in what they were doing was capturing the end game. Like, I mean, you think about the people that are playing these games. They're not non-empathetic. They're not psychopaths like she mentions in the movie, which
I
I thought was funny.
It was. She takes a little jab at gamers.
It's a lot of them are 12-year-old boys and girls playing these Fortnites and Call of Duties and games like that, where you're just thrown into a Grand Theft Auto was one that we kept mentioning while watching the film because Keith said it makes me want to go home and play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, it does.
But I think the people that play those games aren't necessarily bad people. I play those games and I'm not that bad of a person. But it's like in the game though, there's no mercy. There's no it's gung ho. It's how can we blow stuff up? How can we outrun the cops? How many people can we just walk up and sucker punch on the sidewalk? And it's like I do see some of those things in the real world. Like it's kind of like, wow, are these type of games what's kind of giving people the idea to do this stuff in real life?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they were trying to capture that kind of disconnect between reality and what you can be in this game. And I think they do it well in a lot of the things that they say. And as far as like the woke jabs and things that were in there, which I did feel like they were jabs.
They were.
I didn't feel like there was anything that catered in that way. Like there was one where the guy said, and I don't think it was necessarily a jab, but I thought it was funny. But when he talks about somebody, this AI wrote a
poem
about gender
perfect.
roles and all that kind of stuff, and about racism
and
and gender roles.
It's incredibly beautiful.
It's incredibly beautiful, and I was like, it's meant to be sarcastic.
Yes.
Like, I mean, he was serious, but you're supposed to be like, oh my god.
I almost took it as
funny.
It's so nonsensical that only a machine can come up with this,
right.
which I thought was
a real person could not come up with that much social justice in one poem.
Right. And even though we keep trying to edge to that,
I see what you're saying, and I agree. I just feel like I don't know. I give it more credit, I guess. I feel like they were going for capturing that disconnect between real world and in game, and I think they did it well. Even the girl towards the beginning has that disconnect until Ryan Reynolds follows her around and makes a connection. Yeah, and then that connection translates out into the real world eventually. Yeah, no spoilers, but that's just. I don't know. That was my take on it. Honestly, the only thing that ticked off the star for me was it was kind of near the end of the film when they are trying to escape the city, and they did a really good job of merging the real world with this video game sense.
Yes,
I thought it was very well done. They put the glasses on. You can see everything going on. Some things you can't see without the glasses on, and the barrier wall that kind of it's kind of like the invisible wall that you hit in a video game that's as far out into the ocean as you can go. I like how they did that, but the way they get around that I thought was a little bit silly. You got a guy walking around blindly looking at a laptop and punching in random keys, and then a bridge builds and there's this world that you couldn't see but it's there, and I'm just like that's not really how video games work. It's not how coding works.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, I see what they're trying to do there. But it was a little bit.
It was
too
definitely
convenient on how they escape.
It was them condensing what I think would have been a lot more time consuming.
No,
not only that, but I will say even the frame in which the movie sets the predicament in terms of, well, this new game is coming out in 48 hours and we got to get this figured out by then. They give you the time crunch to show you how imminent it is and how, but again, something in this scale just conceivably, I think, and again, this is the nerd in me coming, because like you said, it's like, how can one guy sit there on a laptop and be controlling this in terms of what takes massive hundreds of amounts of people to create this world and generate all the things in it and the activities.
The server room scene broke that for me too, because I'm like, in reality, if you hit one of those servers, it's all done.
Thing. Yep.
Yeah, those ones and zeros are not written specifically on certain drives.
This server just takes care of this building.
Yeah.
I mean, there's redundancy, but you destroy enough of them, there's going to be so many massive parts that the whole thing breaks.
Well, yeah, it was like he hits this one and then all the buildings disappear, and then he hits this one and the road starts to fall apart. And I'm like, it would corrupt everything.
Right. I like the clever nature in which how they show, piece by piece, little things. But again, practically that's not, one-to-one, comparison. But even like him being in the building, I was just like, okay, if you're on their network in the building, you're gonna be pretty found out pretty quick.
They could lock you out.
They could easily find out what your IP is that's doing this. And it's just little things like that. They got a little nerdy that I was just like.
And that's kind of nitpicky.
It is,
but
very
that's what
nitpicky.
we do. You know, we do nitpick sometimes.
And again, all of it to say that if the movie wasn't fun and the movie was laborious to get through, and I didn't really care about the characters, then I would point those things out and knock it off even. But it made up in so many other areas that the nitpicks do not compare or do not at all amount to something that would keep me from saying, "Hey, go see this."
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, it was a great movie.
Yeah, it's one of the things Ryan Reynolds does, especially with these films that he's producing and starring in and all that. I feel like he does a really good job of getting it's not product placement, but almost like IP placement in his movies. Like even with Deadpool, there's so many jabs at X-Men and at other Marvel characters and things like that, and I loved the whole when he pulls out Captain America's shield, and the Hulk
Marvel,
and the Hulk arm and
Star
all that.
Wars,
And Star Wars. I love that because obviously it's Disney, so he's pulling out a lot of Disney stuff. But I just the timing and the placement of those things are so perfect, and not silly or cliche.
Well,
I mean, there's
even
plenty
like,
of times that they could have done something like that, but they chose it right. I really think, I don't know if that's his doing.
I think
or
he's
his
definitely
influence,
a part of it.
Because he's very good at.
I think he's the ones where he'll read the script or the. I mean, because I think the tropes of like the other things they nailed were not. They have individual specific video game references, but not necessarily like Wreck-It Ralph with Sonic or Pac-Man, but more so like the characters doing the dances that you see from Destiny or Fortnite
and Destiny.
Exactly. So it's like
the emotes.
You get these definite moments of, okay, that is video game culture.
Yeah.
They know and understand their audience. And of course, pulling in the celebs that do video game streaming from Twitch or even YouTube, like PewDiePie or Ninja. Yeah. It's like they have these characters in the movie that people are going to recognize that I definitely think does take Ryan Reynolds to be like, okay, these writers, they knew exactly what they were doing and who they were writing for, but then it takes him kind of going to The Rock or Hugh Jackman or John Krasinski, all these other third-party people that he knows he can easily say, come on over here, support this, and let's get as many voices as possible. And then it takes Disney finally seeing the end product to finally be like, oh, that's actually a really good idea, and this is a big success.
No,
we want another one.
He's joked around before about Captain America and how he could have done that and all this stuff. And I have no doubt in my mind that he read that script and was like, yeah, but here, instead of a machine gun, I want to pull out Captain America's shield.
Yes.
And then I want it to cut to Chris Evans.
Yes.
Exactly. I have no doubt that was Ryan Reynolds.
And I mean, we do have to give credit to Disney for playing along. I mean, this is 20th Century, but it's owned by Disney, but under that banner, and we got to give them credit where credit is due for allowing him to get away with it. Because I really do think this would have been 10 years ago. I think the ideas would have been half-baked and it wouldn't have been as good. And truthfully, I think that's kind of the appeal that Ryan Reynolds brings to the table, is after seeing Deadpool and what he was able to, like the puns and all the jabs that he makes at these very particular, like, he just knows he's got his he has his thumb on the pulse of the culture. And he knows what kind of strings to pull to get people to kind of join in and laugh and joke around and have some, like, not only humility and towards himself, but also knows how to say, hey, it's just a joke. Just go. It's entertainment. Like, what are we doing this for? And I think he has the right strings to pull for that. And I think, again, I'm more interested when I see Ryan Reynolds attached to something like this because I know his brand of humor. And he is witty, and he knows how to basically, in an interview, just kind of cutthroat and be like, hey, I'm just going to get to the bare bones of what this is all about. And he makes it a good time and jokes around and makes it lighthearted. So absolutely, I think for that reason alone, Free Guy is worth a watch. No doubt.
Yep. And see it in IMAX if you can.
Yeah.
Don't let the theaters die.
Wait, could you be bringing up one of our headlines?
Hey, Keith's not here to do
Was
the
that
segue,
a segue?
so I'm going to do it.
All right. Let's definitely get into, our headlines. Let's roll that big, beautiful open. What?
I don't know.
What? He did it.
Yeah.
I was refraining.
I was just trying to
He joined in,
fill
Keith.
in because Keith's not here.
He was entertaining you from afar, Keith. He did it for you. I was refraining just because I was like, maybe I won't do it since Keith's not here. And I'll give Sean a break this week. Uh-oh.
She bit me.
She bit you.
I held her mouth.
Oh, no.
Nope.
Edie, come here. Stop playing.
She won't leave me alone.
Come here. Hey, he's not playing. He's doing a show.
Yeah.
You got to be a good pup.
She got my thumb, Brandon.
Oh, no.
She got my
I can
thumb.
kiss it.
She got it.
You want me to kiss it?
She got it, and I reacted.
I think it was the scatting. She was more
That
annoyed.
always, see, that's the thing. Keith does that, and it gets her all
Yep.
upset, and she jumps all over him, and I just get to sit here kind of like,
Yeah. Let
she ain't
him
bothering
take
me.
the blunt of it.
Now
Yeah.
I try to do it, and she gets all up on me.
She wanted some of that thumb. Just saying.
She got
Some
me.
about that
She got me
thumb.
on the cuticle. That's what hurts.
The cuticle. It's like I haven't pushed him back
She
in a
got me
while.
on the soft spot.
It hurts, man.
All right, so what's this headline?
The headline's pretty good. I think actually I may do something that we don't normally do.
Oh, great. Are you going to change the headlines after I just
No,
read
no,
them?
no, no. It's cinemas should not be worrying about streaming. That is the headline.
Okay.
But I was thinking about let's not. Why not pull up the article? It's a short enough article
Yeah,
that I
that's
think
not
can
bad.
be read, and I honestly do believe this is going to be the main topic that we talk about this evening, and I really do think it's actually worth discussing in terms of kind of because James Gunn just had Suicide Squad release
It's not
last
that
week.
short, but okay.
And it's not that short. There's got a lot of gaps that they have, like these pictures
Stupid
and
pictures. I hate
and this
crap.
this is from Screen Rant, and it's actually more of an opinion piece. And they're kind of echoing the same sentiment that James Gunn has mentioned in a couple of statements. But I think the piece overall, it does do a good job of, I think, kind of taking an overall glimpse of the film industry and cinema in general, and how we sometimes, I think, pigeonhole it into just theaters versus home or in-home or on demand.
Okay.
And I think this does a good job of saying, well, no, cinema's all of it. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll read this out loud.
Okay.
So James Gunn is exactly right when he says big streaming releases aren't a huge problem. Because movies last because people can watch them at home, not just in theaters. The coronavirus pandemic threw the movie industry into disarray, further shifting big movie releases like The Suicide Squad away from big screen and onto streaming. While theaters and the big screen will always be fixtures in movie-going culture, thanks to the shrinking box office, they won't always be the biggest place to see movies. The advent of streaming, and especially the growth in big-budget streaming releases like Tomorrow War and Army of the Dead, combined with shortened theatrical exclusive windows, has created a lot of conversation about big-screen movies versus small-screen movies, which, in most cases, is a mostly arbitrary point. Movies are movies, and while bigger screens and louder sound can certainly elevate a movie, the line between movies made for theater and movies made for home viewing isn't nearly so clear as it was in the days where non-theatrical films were almost all low-budget, straight-to-video B-movies. So before I read any further, I do want to comment on just that section right there, because I think they make a good point that it used to be in the day and age where when you saw a movie go straight to theater or straight to VHS or home video release,
Right.
no doubt it was just a B-movie. You wouldn't even waste your time with it.
It was Left Behind. Or the Omega Code.
Absolutely.
Or
and we left those
Sharknado.
behind. Well, even Sharknado was
That
made
was-
for the Sci-Fi Channel,
Right, but it wasn't in
but
theaters.
it wasn't theaters at
Yeah,
all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of comically made up to pull on the trope of the fact that you
Sure.
had those B movies.
Yeah.
But to continue, the post-pandemic reopening of movie theaters and same-day streaming releases has changed the way we see theatrical releases, with some movies intended for blockbuster theatrical experiences being viewed primarily by huge audiences at home as the box office struggles to recover. Studios like Warner Brothers say that they're returning to theatrical exclusivity releases next year in 2022, but the streaming shift won't totally go away, especially with shorter exclusive windows, meaning the way we consume movies as a culture will never be the same, but in some ways will be the same as it ever was. The biggest elephant in the room with this topic is the fact that the ticket sales are drying up, and have been for some time. While box office revenue has increased for some studios in recent years before the pandemic, the number of ticket sales tickets being sold every year has actually been in decline for 2 decades, with theater attendance hitting an all-time low in 2017. The box office was being held afloat by price increases, which obviously isn't a viable long-term solution. The decline started before the advent of streaming, but the increased availability of inexpensive quality streaming TV and movies at home has surely had an impact. It likely started with TV screens getting bigger and cheaper and home video being available in high-quality formats at video rental stores in the late 90s, with the share of the screen time at home only increasing yearly leading into the streaming boom. So let's talk about that for a sec, too.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, they're already underlining the fact that you've had declining ticket sales, and to compensate for that, theaters have increased their prices. And we've noticed this over the last easily 5-6 years of going to the movies.
I did not realize that the all-time low was in 2017.
Of ticket sales.
Yeah, which is like, that's crazy, because that's obviously way before any pandemic. It's way before... well, not way before, but it is before Netflix had struck so many deals with people like Adam Sandler and The Witcher deals and things like, and HBO striking deals with.
Netflix was the streaming king.
Yes,
we've now got literally a slew of streaming services.
But even in 2017, I'm saying Netflix didn't have anywhere near to offer what they have now.
Right.
And so it's just crazy that ticket prices were down in 2017 when I would have thought they would have been up and they would have declined from then on.
Well, no, not ticket prices, ticket sales, though. So the prices
that's what I meant, ticket sales.
Yeah, that would
less
have been
people going to the theater. I would have thought that would be more closer to now, and in 2017 it would be higher.
Yeah. But the fact that, it to me, it completely, it kind of made up, when I read it, it made a better picture in my mind of, so not only have we been just seeing skyrocketing prices for no reason, it is because most people are electing to not go to the theaters, so they've got to make up that revenue. And he gets into a little bit more here in the next part about why streaming is a lot more lucrative for these companies. So to continue on, not only is streaming growing in popularity while theaters are shrinking, but streaming is far more profitable, especially for studios with their own streaming platform. Disney's industry record-shattering box office performance in 2019 brought the company just over $11 billion, with Disney movies accounting for 80% of 2019's biggest hits. But those heights are hard to achieve on a yearly basis due to release schedules of big blockbuster IP franchises, with the stars aligning in 2019. So 7 of Disney's movies, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Aladdin, The Lion King, Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, grossed over $1 billion. And of course, Avengers Endgame set the all-time record for $2.8 billion.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Netflix's yearly revenue first eclipsed $11 billion.
$11 billion.
$11 billion.
Yeah.
In 2017, that same year, of course, that the ticket sales were the lowest, and has only grown since, posting nearly $25 billion in revenue in 2020. Disney Plus revenue, of course, exceeded this pandemic box office in 2020, and won't only do so again in 2021, but also exceed its record 2019 box office haul as well. So now they're even looking back at previous runs at the box office as late as 2019, well before the pandemic. That entire year. So they're basically saying that you can easily stake a claim on Disney Plus's success, which obviously saw a monumental surge last year when it not only, during the pandemic when most people were at home, stuck at home, and they were streaming more, and that's even helped Netflix's bottom line. But to continue, streaming revenue isn't just bigger for studios than box office grosses either. Studios share around half their box office revenue with theaters, even more internationally, whereas they get to keep the lion's share of streaming revenue for their own content on their own platform, only sharing a small percentage with companies like Google or Amazon when their hardware is used to stream the movie. It doesn't take a big studio CEO to know massive revenue boosts and higher profit margins are a good combination. There's a reason Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar sees $1 billion streaming movie budgets in the future. I mean, that's monumental.
Yep.
$1 billion. I mean, we already talked about recently, with Amazon Prime coming out with Lord of the Rings series next year, and that's already eclipsed how many I forget how much it was for just the first season.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's insane.
It's nuts.
And I'm like, but now we're talking about $1 billion movie budgets?
Yeah.
This is crazy. We're talking about literally the fortune of many small countries out there, the larger than the GDP of a lot of small countries. So movies are going more and more to streaming, but how will that impact the way we watch them and talk about them? This brings us back to James Gunn's quote, "Movies last because they're seen on television." Jaws isn't still a classic because people are watching it in theaters. I've never seen Jaws in a movie theater. It's one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. Jaws is a great reference for Gunn's point because it's old enough that most people never had the opportunity to see it in the theater, yet it's still widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. The same goes for many classics like Citizen Kane to The Godfather, or even some modern movies like Fight Club, which bombed at the box office and gained a second life on DVD.
Mm-hmm. Became a cult classic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Theaters have traditionally been a cultural touchstone for moviegoers, but they were also the primary or only way for a movie to make any money for most of that time. A movie may start a conversation when it hits theaters, but the home market determines if it's still talked about years later. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is a great modern analogy, where the movie made a big initial splash at the box office and certainly started conversations, but writer Chris Terrario says it was sabotaged by studio cuts. It was the release of the 3-hour Ultimate Edition, a.k.a. Zack Snyder's director's cut, that truly immortalized it with fans, keeping it in the conversation for years, serving as a major driving force behind the campaign for the Snyder Cut, which has become a Hollywood legend now, despite only being released on streaming at the end of the day. And to conclude, there was a time when theaters were the only place most people could see movies, but the ability to watch, rewatch, pause, rewind, and truly pore over films at home redefined many people's relationships to cinema. Falling in love with larger-than-life stories at home, while the theatrical experience may never return to what it once was, the home viewing experience will always be the primary way audiences build and maintain relationships with their favorite movies. So let's let's divulge that. I mean, here we are talking about the theater, theaters getting back from their post, pandemic surge, and we were hoping to see that uptick with specific releases only in theaters.
Yeah, yeah.
And definitely some of those movies saw that boon. But now we're back into this Delta variant crisis, governments threatening more shutdowns and it affecting the theaters all over again. I mean, can they survive not only a second wave of this pandemic, but can they survive the long-term projections of what we now know is undoubtedly a streaming future?
I'm not sure. I mean, first of all, I would say in the midst of more shutdowns, the people that own these businesses need to just take a stand and say, we're not shutting down.
I agree.
I mean, the fines, if there even would be any, would far less exceed the profit that they would make if they stayed open. So I'm just saying I would pay the fines and stay open.
You could say that, but with declining ticket sales and people not going, especially if they're scared, because that's the thing, we've turned up every single week since the theaters have reopened.
Right, yeah.
But
again, in point with this article, we have turned up for the big blockbuster releases. There's some movies that we have been, all but willing. I mean, we have been willing to just sit at home and watch them on HBO or
Disney Plus
or our special screener website.
The partnership we have with studios in Hollywood.
Right, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So there's definitely films. Just reading this last paragraph, I can tell you there's films that I'm definitely going to go see it in the theater if the theaters are open. But there's also films that it's kind of like I don't really care to drive 30 minutes to the theater and go through the process, even if it is with friends, just to see that movie. It's like I could sit and watch that in my basement, or we could all get together and watch it together on somebody's TV, and I would be just as content. But Free Guy was one of those movies where there's to hell with watching it on TV. I'll do that later. I want to see it on the IMAX screen.
Right.
Black Widow, I wanted to see in IMAX. There's other movies. Fast 9, as terrible of a fun movie as it was,
it actually would
I
have worse
wanted
at home.
to see it. I have not even watched that at home. Even
you can't.
Though, you can.
Well,
Through that partnership.
That's
mentioned.
right.
Yeah, but I haven't even tried because it's just like, no, I saw it in theaters. It sucked. I don't want to watch it at home. Godzilla versus King Kong, or Godzilla versus Kong, whatever it was called. We went and saw that in theaters, didn't we?
No, we watched that one on home.
We did.
We watched that at
I watched
HBO
that at home,
Max, yeah.
and to be honest with you, that was one that I was thinking, okay, I got to see that in theaters, but I'm just fine with watching it at home.
Yeah,
it wasn't worth the time. But
agreed. Well, and it's funny because I actually think I agree with this article in the sense that it's becoming more niche. But to me, okay, for instance, I liken it to maybe record players, and in my mind, record players obviously are not the most popular way of listening.
Record players are so retro.
They're so retro, and
so
they
nostalgic.
are so pure. The pure sound.
The sound
of
is
any
so
music.
deep and rich, and when you hear those little pops, you just know it's real.
You just know this was real. So much more passion through the airwaves.
It's a needle and horsehair. I mean, it sounds. Well, they don't even make it with horsehair.
No,
anymore. That's illegal now. But I have one at home that has legit horsehair on the needle. So.
What?
Yes, my Magnavox that I got from.
It can't be illegal because you still have like bows and stuff, or is that all synthetic? They don't do that with horsehair anymore.
I bet you.
I'm sure like a horsehair.
I bet
like
you got to pay
$1,000.
$1,000.
I was gonna say I bet they're just
horsehair
really
bow.
expensive.
The rest of them are acrylic.
That's
or
probably
whatever.
wise. It's just
nylon.
expense.
Yes,
it probably is. That's all. It's just expensive.
I bet they don't do it. PETA would be all over that.
Yeah, well, of course they would, but they would do it if you're going to spend like $10,000 on a beautiful record machine.
Yeah,
it better come with the damn.
That's right.
It better come with the best of the best.
Yeah, I got a coffee mug made out of elephant's horn.
Ooh,
and it's
now
I'm just kidding.
I was going to say,
it's made out of real ivory tusk. Got it from Africa.
It's made from,
and it makes the coffee taste amazing.
The best coffee
so
ever.
Pure.
Made from the mastodon. You weren't even alive when they
10,000 BC, baby.
But no, I do. I liken it to record players in the sense that you see a surge come back from this purest sound, or these audiophiles who say that there is some kind of purity they want to uphold. And I think the same is going to be said. Like, cinemas are not going away.
No.
But they are not going to be the mainstay that I think what I'm seeing, what I think we're going to see in the years to come are these huge multiplexes, these huge companies like AMC are not going to be around. I think Cinemark, AMC, I think they have had their heyday, and I think in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, you are going to see a return to old art style movie houses. Mm-hmm. And you're going to still see your blockbusters. You're still going to have those IMAX theaters.
They're going to be privately owned.
But they're going to be privately owned, and they're not going to necessarily need these huge big budget. And I think you're still going to have huge studios that reach out to that market because, again, I don't think anybody who knows and loves the joy of going to the cinema and enjoying being a part of that atmosphere, it is like no other. And even if you are part of that niche market, I don't think that's a market that the big production studios are just necessarily going to completely abandon.
Yeah.
Because, again, any profit-seeking businessman is going to take money if it's on the table.
Yes.
And there's money to be had there, but it's just I think they're getting tired of having to deal with a lot of these demands from theaters, and they obviously circumvented a lot of that last year.
The whole thing with theaters is something that it baffles me, and I'm not the smartest person. I don't know how all of this, the inside business I don't know how it all works with AMC theaters or anything. But if you look at the model of a drive-in, I thought of drive-in, and now I'm thinking about it even more. But you go to a drive-in, you pay $10 for a carload of people. You're going to see the same movie that you're going to see in theaters, minus you have surround sound, but it's not Dolby Digital.
It's definitely
stereo.
Yeah,
it's 84 channel stereo.
I was gonna say surround sound.
Yeah. But so you minus the theatrical sound, but you're still getting a big freaking screen. You're still getting the gathering with friends. You're still getting that. You're getting popcorn for a freaking $1 a bucket.
Yep.
Compared to $8 and $10 a bucket. You're getting a soda cup that you can go and refill whenever the hell you want. Like, and it's not $10 for that either.
Yep.
You can bring your own food, and nobody says a word to you about it.
Well, of course
So
not.
I'm just like, how in the world are drive-ins able to do those things and still show the same film, yet the theaters are charging you $20 a ticket,
Yep.
$20 for
Well,
food, and still raking you across the coals?
It's
like,
got to
how?
be. It's simply, for one, it's overhead. I mean, the cost of overhead at a theater when you're paying. Well,
Yeah,
we've
to
seen
keep the
dwindling
lights on
staff.
and to keep everything
right.
up. But
You've
I mean,
got the
shit, there's
facilities.
grass growing in the movie theater.
Well, that's the thing,
Yeah.
and that's been one
like-
of our gripes, and especially recently with going back to AMC is those things that we feel like we're not getting, even though we pay for AMC Stubbs A-List. You didn't say, oh, you can pay for this very convenient, monthly subscription to see 3 movies a week.
Yeah.
But it's not really going to be profitable enough for us to keep up the quality and standards you expect. Like, that's not part of the deal.
No.
Part of the deal is that you expect that the theater is still going to make a profit enough off of you that it can,
maintain itself.
it can maintain its and not just the quality of service, but the quality. I mean, we went and saw Old in probably one of the dinkiest old theaters
Yes.
that really we used to go see, and maybe see the small, every once in a while, art house film that would release at a big multiplex.
Yeah.
But you've got 20 theaters that you've got to worry about, that you've got to maintain the not only the speakers and the monitors, but you've got to maintain the projector, and you've got to have these deals where, again, it's funny that they talk about in that article the theaters or the studios are having to share a maximum amount of profits with the theaters, and I'm like, but we also know it's the other way around. We know in the first few weeks of a big release, the studios are making a majority of the money than the theaters are.
Yeah.
And the theaters are having to sell you the $5 or $6 small Coke or $8 popcorn because of the fact that they can't make money until the later end. But then you still had things like the Dollar or the Green Tree 4. And it was like there were 4 theaters that showed older movies that had already either come out on release, but you still had reels that were passed down from bigger multiplexes.
Yeah.
And so for me, you definitely have higher overhead costs and higher operating costs in these bigger theaters. But no doubt, like you're saying, at a drive-in when you don't have as much of a variety, because that's the other thing, is when you only have 2 movies that are, and you're literally talking about the biggest blockbuster and maybe
and then something else.
An animated movie at this day and age.
Yeah, it's like Free Guy and then Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the other thing, too. You didn't bring up. Most of them are double features, though.
Yeah, that's true.
You get two
So
movies
two movies.
for $10.
You're getting a new one and maybe an old one that might be good. Or
yeah,
whatever. It's like whatever's free on Crunchyroll or not Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll.
Crackle.
Or Crackle.
Whatever's free
Crunchyroll
on Crackle.
is
That's the anime and
Yeah,
stuff.
anime,
No,
yeah.
not that. But yeah, it's like whatever's free on Crackle right now or Roku channel.
And
or
who knows?
whatever,
Maybe
that's
now they're
what's-
probably just sticking a Roku stick into the projector. and say,
they might be.
play.
That's true. So do you think we would get to the point where movies would release on streaming first, and then when they see how well it's doing in streaming, then they say, okay, let's do a theatrical run of that. Let's make a deal with the theater and get
Easily.
that movie in the theater.
I mean, think
so
about
the only time theaters would be open is when there's something to be, shown that's going to make it, worth their while,
and
I guess.
you kind of see, I don't know if they'll get that drastic, because again, I think maybe for some, because which we were talking about with Dune, and there's certain movies that are made with that spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they know they're going to cash in on both crowds. They're going to cash in on the crowd that just wants to sit at home and they're never going to go to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to cash in on the crowds they're going to absolutely go to the theater. And, I mean, that's why I think you saw the big hits like F9, even though it was only released in theaters.
Yeah.
But even, something like Dune, I think you're going to draw a majority of the people who want to see that are going to go see an obscure title like that because they're cinema lovers anyway. And then that's something my parents would watch if I, by word of mouth, say, that was a great movie.
Yeah.
And then they'll catch it on Roku when it's available for
Sure.
$3-4.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't know if I necessarily see that being the trend as much as I see it becoming independent owners of smaller movie houses. And ultimately, too, I think that you're going to kind of see, I think, a combination of, major releases and streaming same day become more frequent. But then we already see it with certain older classics coming back to the theater. I mean, that was part of the deal to get people to go back after the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, we're going to release Ghostbusters, or
Yeah.
you know, we're going to release these older classics that you didn't see in theaters to get that, you know, hey, let's
to
come
have that
see it.
feel, yeah. You can watch it for free at home, but I would gladly pay $5 to see
Exactly.
Ghostbusters in theaters.
And I think that's going to become, I think theater owners are fighting for what they've had, but because they just don't have that stake in the ground anymore, because, I mean, granted, when you're spending $1 billion, you know, possibly talking about spending $1 billion on one movie, you're going to want that in as many places as possible to get as much reach and
That's
maximum value.
That's unbelievable. The average right now is for a big budget movie is $200 to $300
I would
million?
say 3 to 350 now.
3 to 350.
I mean, even if I think Endgame was, I think it was on 400 to 500 million.
Was it really?
I think
the
so.
budget.
Well, and when you
Dang.
consider those stars, and I don't want to say this out of hand because I don't know this for sure. I believe that Infinity War and Endgame were filmed simultaneously, so I think they combined the budget for both of them.
Okay,
To say, I think it was roughly like 500.
that would
million
make sense.
for both
250
of
a
them.
piece. Yeah,
But that's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But if you're getting the success, and I think that's the other interesting thing is, we talked about it all the time on the show but how can these be profitable if they're only on streaming? Because a view isn't necessarily a subscription, but if it's one subscription, you know, for that month, that's probably enough. Or if it's enough to have other people latch onto the service and say, no, we do want to subscribe just to see this, even if it's for that 1 month.
Yeah.
Because, again, it still puts the onus on whoever's producing the films to create the content and generate the content that people want to see.
That's going to hook them. Yeah.
And otherwise, you know, we're going to end up with Netflix, you know, spending a lot of money on things that people aren't going to tune into.
Yeah.
And then they're still in the same boat as if a movie flopped. But in this hand, too, something like, you know, they were saying in the article with regards to Fight Club. It's like, okay, you have something that releases in theaters, but you didn't just spend millions of dollars on it for it to be a flop at the box office, and then nobody talks about it. Or that perfect comparison with Jaws. It's like you have a movie, but it's much more than just the blockbuster at the box office. It's sustaining because it's just a great film.
Yeah.
And Gunn is right. It's like your staying power of a movie is what is going to generate popularity. Now, the only question I have for that is Jaws, as big of a hit and as classic of a film as it is, it did start the summer blockbusters. And ultimately, you have to argue it's not making the same amount in day 25 or day 30 in a theater that it is day 1.
No.
And so if you're releasing it on streaming and you may get those subscribers for 1 month, but it's not a popular film, I'm sorry, how can you say it's profitable long term? If I mean, hell, I can go find Jaws for free. I can get it for free.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I think that's the other problem here, that, you know, it used to be that if you only had a movie in theaters, that was the only place to see it, then you're definitely guaranteed at least a certain amount of money for people to come and see it. Whereas if you release it on streaming, and we already know this with piracy, day 1 streaming, you're going to have the availability and the ability to get it free anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And that is money that's on the table. And of course, that's an argument for
Another
maybe
day.
another time,
Yeah.
another discussion.
Be a good
Alrighty.
multimedia segment down the road.
It would be. And I
But we
think
got one for right now, though.
we've got, imagine that. I think we came prepared tonight.
Yeah.
Let's roll that multimedia. Oh, gosh, that's the show close.
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
Multimedia. Love Keith's voice just gracing us there. Even when he's not here.
No.
Gotta love it. Love that man. Alrighty, guys, let's talk about. Hold on. Oh, ooh. Keith, are the Indians? Are they talking to you? Are they trying to have you talk to us?
Me? Okay.
Wow, he sounds like
Like Mickey Mouse.
like a little 9-year-old girl.
Who, me? Golly.
Gosh,
Oh, gosh.
Goofy Donald, we gotta save the kingdom. So terrible.
I got pretty good at Mickey Mouse because of my son. 'Cause he loves Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So
Oh,
it's just,
is
I
that
have to-
House of Mouse or something?
No, it's called Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Okay. Okay. Be sure to wear your mask, boys and girls.
No way.
We don't want to get the COVID down in Disney World. Sorry. That references Keith's little trip.
Wow.
Alrighty, guys. Let's talk about what media do you consume the most? Sean, this was your topic.
It was.
And actually, no, this is, I think, a great topic. I mean, as much as we've discussed all the different types of media and ins and outs of technology, we never really discussed what we. I mean, you would think doing this podcast it would be movies.
Sure,
but
I mean, in reality, it's not. Like, I mean, how many movies do you watch a week? 2?
Probably less than that. Sometimes,
really?
Sometimes it really is only just the movie we review.
Usually,
which I try to watch more than that. I try to watch it, like you said.
I like a lot of movies,
which is good.
That's how I have some of these like
good
recommendations
opinions
for things that
we've never seen,
you've never heard of or seen.
It's true,
but
your unique taste.
I probably get 3 to 4 films in a week. Usually one every night, but sometimes I get I'll break the mold and watch a show. I have about 2 hours of TV time to myself every night before I go to bed. So in that 2 hours, I usually try to watch something.
Yeah,
and I mean usually a movie.
Now,
but
is it something that like Amelia won't want to watch?
That, and then I'm really bad at scrolling through Netflix and finding the stuff that other people aren't watching. Like there's just like I'll watch the big stuff, the things that everybody's hyped about, but then I mean I'll flip through Netflix and I'll scroll around and be like, what in the world is that? Like if it's got a catchy cover art, I'll click on it and read what it's about, and sometimes I get 20 or 30 minutes into a movie and I'm just like, hell with this.
Yeah, it's done.
I'm just gonna play PlayStation. but usually I'll watch the whole film so that I can say whether it was truly bad or truly good.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I see a lot of random films, and there's a lot of older movies that I've never seen before, especially comedies and stuff that I'll go back and watch now that these streaming services are offering those. Peacock has a lot of free old movies, and then I think the other night I watched 9 to 5. I had never watched all of 9.
That's a good movie.
I had
I
never
actually
seen it all the way
just recently watched it.
So I watched
just
because
my mom brought it up, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah, so there's different things like that. So I usually get movies in, but that's, I mean, if you think about that, that's 8 hours of my week.
That's a lot, though.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. I mean, compared to what...
But the majority of my consuming of media would probably be my freaking phone and everything. It probably would be social media.
Okay.
I guarantee you I spend more than 8 hours a week on Facebook, TikTok, or not TikTok,
Instagram.
Instagram I'll look at
Reels,
a little bit, but man, Facebook and Facebook video, and all that crap, and
YouTube,
it's ridiculous.
YouTube,
and YouTube
actually,
yes.
I was going to say that's a fault of mine. It sadly has been more so in the last few years, just because again, I think there's great content on there that. It's amazing that it's free, but obviously, advertisers are paying these people who have great followings. And I'm sorry, but, I just wish Google and their algorithms were, freely open for, multiple different types of people to enjoy versus, favoring certain kinds of content.
Sure.
But, the content is there. And if you do search for it, it's available. And, and there's probably, if there's some kind of weird thing that you're into, no doubt there's probably somebody who's producing it. And producing it well enough that it's like it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And but it's funny because I think that has been the problem is I get into that tunnel vision of there's so much stuff to watch on Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max. I mean that's the thing. I've got like 4 streaming services.
Right. Yeah.
I only pay for like 2, but I've got them and there's just so much content that I get bewildered by what to watch. So I just turn to YouTube, and more than likely, I hate to say it, their algorithm to a degree, based on what I have searched for and what I've watched, pops something up there that I'm like, I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And it could be weird crap all over the spectrum, but they've got it down to where it's like I'll scroll through there on what's recommended, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the problem with them is they're 15, 20-minute little snippets.
Yeah.
And that eats up like 2 hours easily. because I'll watch 3 or 4 videos and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, unboxings and freaking video game reviews. And new technology.
Number file, weird science crap, and
like
political stuff. I watch a lot of political commentary.
Yeah.
And I honestly, frankly, it's way better than any of the mainstream media
you get. But it's too much.
It can be.
I mean, I go down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Like I'll get, especially with podcasts.
Yes.
Like I usually listen to a podcast on my way to and from work. And
Same.
I don't have as much of a drive now, so I don't get through a whole podcast like I used to, because a lot of them are around 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
I only have about a 20-minute drive now, so I hit it to and from and get
through like one show on your commute. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like every day. That's what I do. Like I got a routine.
Yes.
So I guess in my life it would be I have an allotment for each type of media throughout the day. Like I mean that.
What about,
if you think about that? I've got
here's
an
one
hour for podcasts, 2 hours for a movie or television at
which
night.
a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, I don't even have that much
You
time.
don't have that much, and then it's just throughout the day. It's the phone and everything that's going on there, news feeds and basically like the just news feeds and social media.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I definitely find myself scrolling through those.
That consumes probably the biggest part of my day.
Really?
Because I'm constantly checking that.
I want to stay in the know.
I mean, you could even say one form of the multimedia would be our text messages. Even just communication in general.
Yeah,
because like we text all day.
And how often are we sending messages with a link from something that we found on social media or a funny video or thinking about the one you sent us today.
Oh God, so bad.
I wish we could show it on here.
No, you can't.
We can't show it on this show.
That one on here. That's on that podcast.
That's a rated X. And it wasn't even provocative. It was just
it wasn't even
gross
humans.
And funny. I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
It doesn't. It makes it worse, I think.
But no, I actually, you are right. I think it definitely is a form of media, social media, and it. I mean, one we didn't really consider, and I'm interested because I think we've kind of talked about this before with Keith. Is reading.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's a media. I mean, whether you do it technologically or just sitting down with a book in your hand, it's like that takes up time.
That's the least amount of time in the day.
Yeah.
Other than, reading the articles, but still I would count those as part of the
social media,
the news and that kind of stuff, staying up on that. But
yeah.
And music, I don't get to listen to music nearly enough throughout the day.
See, and that is the one thing that, like you were kind of saying with the overload of the podcast, I get to a point where I've heard so much that I'm just like, okay,
I'm just gonna listen to music.
I need to listen to music. I need an escape.
Yeah.
And I do. There's nothing better than just trying to, like, sometimes I'll go down through a rabbit hole of, who's like this artist, and then can I find somebody new that I've never heard before that I latch onto and I like.
Yeah, Apple Music and their allowing you to create radio stations.
Yes,
I do that all the time. Like on my way home from the movie Sunday night, I was the
there
exact
you go.
same thing. I was actually getting ready to start listening to a podcast on the way home, and I was just like, no, I'm just going to listen to music. I rolled the windows down, put it on the Guns N' Roses station that I created, and just listened to whatever popped up.
That's right.
And it yeah, Apple's algorithms are really good at
kind of
picking what you like.
This is how we get sucked in.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's a vortex of just consumption.
It's nuts.
I mean, we can't help it.
I don't get to listen to music enough. I'm paying freaking $10 a month for
I know.
it, and I don't hardly ever get to listen
but
to it.
But now I just got a new bike. I'm getting into fitness.
You got a bike?
I got a bike. I'll show you after the show.
You get a Trek?
I got a Trek.
Nice.
I got a Trek Verve.
Oh.
Verve 2.
I don't know what that is, but
it's got disc brakes. That's fancy schmancy, man.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money. More than I wanted to spend on. But it's a hybrid.
Expensive.
And it was it's not a road bike.
I have a road bike.
Okay.
So
see, and I thought the road bike would just be too much for, like, because I don't want to get competitive. I just want it for fitness.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable. I wish I never bought it.
See, and that was the thing.
But
this one
Amelia got a hybrid, and it's way better.
Yeah. And this one does. I got my tushy's which I'm a little fatter.
Yeah.
I'm working it off.
Yeah.
But my tushy's hurting right now. I got to get used to it.
You got to get those shorts with the memory foam, the gel.
That's what I was told.
Chode in them.
The chode.
They got a gel chode.
Maybe. Wait, do they have some that are like those fancy underwear you talk about with the different compartments?
Probably.
If they got bike shorts
but
like
you can wear those bike shorts under real shorts. That way we don't all have to see your bike shorts. That's what I do. I wear them under a pair of regular shorts.
Okay.
And then you have a little bit extra padding there.
Just it separates everything, nicely.
Yeah.
But no, I'm actually, I enjoy that because it's like I'm doing two things at once, which is nice. I'm not just sitting there watching YouTube videos feeling like I know I'm getting fatter and eating junk, but I'm actually working out and, I'm sitting there riding my bike and I can listen to a podcast or something, that's, again, interesting that I want to listen to.
Yeah.
Did
you go to Schellers?
Yes, I did.
Did you have them install a cadence device?
No. Okay, so I think the bike allows that. It has that capability. But as far as I know, they said I think there's like a third-party device that you have to buy.
Yeah, the one I have is third-party, but I had them install it while I was there.
I don't know how much it is. I didn't even ask.
Or 40 or
I got them to install a kickstand for $20.
No, this thing's like a little bitty.
Yeah,
like little watch
it
face
actually
thing,
goes
and it clicks on, and it has sensors on the wheels, and it tracks how fast you're going. It tracks your cadence. And it tracks your mileage.
Does it do it through its own app or something?
It just does it on the device. It doesn't. I'm sure they have them now that connect to your phone.
Well, I
but
was
mine
say
doesn't.
the device that it recommended or it touted on their website, because I obviously went to Trek's website before I went to Schellers, but it was like it's like a Bluetooth device.
Okay,
that actually fits
mine
in the
doesn't do
device
that.
and syncs up to your phone.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, is there a third-party app? I'm assuming there is, but to me, if that were the case, I'd rather have something that directly sent the data to
I'm
Apple
be honest
Fitness.
with you. I think the brand of the thing I have is called Cadence. I think that's the brand.
Okay, I have to look because I know it has some kind of Bluetooth capability that
I
haven't tapped
bought
into.
mine 14 years ago.
Oh dang!
So
wow, that was like
we got them like right after we got married. We bought those bikes, and
how much have you used them?
We rode them like crazy when we first got them.
Yeah,
and then just quit.
Yep.
And they're hanging up in my garage.
See, but you just moved, and I remember when I
meant to be honest with you, I might look into trying to get rid of my road bike and get something that I can actually ride.
I'm like,
because this thing has wheels on it that
they're
skinny,
thin. Yes,
they're about a 3/4 of an inch thick, maybe. And you feel everything on the road.
See,
you can't ride them through gravel or nothing.
The
or you're
cool
done.
thing about this one was
it
also has a, which granted they're newer. The Dual Sport has the shock on the front wheel, but this one doesn't have those. It's all one aluminum frame.
Sure, yeah.
But it has the shock absorber in the seat.
Okay.
And I was like, and it actually
this thing doesn't absorb
shit. And I was like, you can feel the bumps,
everything,
but it's not that bad.
It's terrible. It's an $800 waste of money.
This one was $800.
Yeah,
and it's been so far it's been good. But my thing was to take the pressure off my joints so I can ease back into running. And I was going to alternate between the two, basically riding one day, running the next, and back and forth. But I have a goal weight in mind that I want to get back to because I ain't gonna lie, and I even looked it up. It's like running at a certain weight, it puts that much more pressure on your joints.
Oh yeah, you'll have knee replacement.
Yeah,
later
and
in
so
life.
I was like, well, let me just rely on the bike right now to take some of that pressure off, and I'll get back into it.
Yep.
But it's part of health and fitness, man.
I hear you, bro.
You gotta get back into it. You gotta be healthy, live a lifestyle while you're consuming all this media.
Yep. Keith said he definitely reads visual media such as internet videos, movies, and shows more than audio, music, and podcasts.
Okay.
Also, gaming more.
Yes, we didn't even mention gaming, and I got to be honest. That's a guilty pleasure that I know it consumes way too much of my time that I shouldn't devote to it, but I do, and it really comes from
I don't have the time unless
at night.
And
you
at
sacrifice
night, and
something.
Usually I go to the movies, but
which is better, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I can pass 2 or 3 hours easily in a game.
Faster, yeah.
And it's not good because I know that after those 3 hours, I'm looking at the clock like, what did I just do with my time? But it really comes from a time in my life.
3 deliveries on Death Stranding, and that's it. That's all I did, and they weren't even part of the main story.
Trust me. I felt that pain through that game.
God.
Totally. It's like, is this ever going to end?
No.
All I'm doing is walking through rocks. What the hell is this?
I'm going to do it again tomorrow night, too.
But I love it.
I know.
I did. I love that game. It was good. But it's like, it comes from, we grew up with games.
Yeah.
And I think our childhood and growing up with that, I have more of an affinity for games. I mean, obviously, my love for movies goes way deeper.
Yeah.
Especially, because that's my passion.
I hate being around people older than me and you're just like, I sat up the other night and was playing this game or whatever, and they're just like, you're almost 40 years old and you play video games? And I'm like, I was playing video games when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Why would I not still play them now?
Well,
I drank milk when I was 4. I still drink milk. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, but you're not like me where you eat chicken nuggets and mac and cheese.
I
And
do
you're 30.
sometimes.
Yeah.
The dinosaur chicken nuggets taste better than regular chicken nuggets.
Ain't that the truth?
They
and
do.
I'm telling you, when they're baked right, they got that crunch.
Baked.
That
I put them
crisp.
in the microwave.
I'm saying, but that's one way to make them more. It's more robust
Robust.
and more elegant.
So you bake them in the oven.
There you go.
Okay.
You got to have a little elegance.
See, that's too much work,
your
man.
dinosaur.
That's too much. You got to take
Yeah.
them out and flip them over
It's
halfway
like-
through. That's too much work.
I don't flip
I
'em.
want them in 3.5 minutes.
I'm too lazy. I don't flip them.
You don't
I
flip 'em?
I let them go through the whole time.
Oh, God.
That's right.
So you don't even do it right.
No. And
So
I
you're-
still do that stovetop mac and cheese, but Easy Mac, man, that's where it's at.
Ugh.
Now, that stuff, you just pop it in the microwave. It's good to go.
Heck yeah.
I've even gotten the instant mashed potatoes. I don't care. Oh, I need a wife, man.
Eat that
I
and
need
then
a
go
wife.
get on your bike and ride.
I need to. But that ain't gonna help.
Yeah.
Eating all that starch and all them carbs, it's just bad. It's bad
Yeah.
for you.
Floodball is good, though, that you live right here. Can you hop on that thing and
I
ride your
know.
bike? You can
That's-
ride miles.
8
on that thing.
miles. 8
Heck
miles back if you go, or 4 miles total. But if you go back and forth, it's 8 miles.
Yeah.
And I ride from my house up to the flood wall,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I get in an extra like mile and a half that way. And I'm
Nice.
like, it's like a good 9-mile ride I can do, or it's about an 8.5 mile ride.
So you ride it across the greenbelt?
Yeah. It's dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. I don't recommend it.
No.
I don't recommend it.
You got a
at all.
helmet?
Yeah, no.
No?
Nope.
You don't wear a helmet?
I don't wear a helmet.
Oh, my God.
And I don't even wear. I don't even have cushioned pants. How do you expect me to wear a helmet? I'm gonna take care of my tush before I take care of my head.
Everybody's all worried about vaccines, and he's not even wearing a helmet.
Helmets are for wussies.
Okay.
I don't need no
I got
vaccine.
a
I don't
helmet
need
with a
no
mirror.
helmet.
I got a mirror on mine.
Oh my, you are fancy.
Mhm.
I would make fun of you.
Got me a little plastic swing arm mirror that comes out so I can see behind me.
No, I do need to. No, they do come with reflectors. They got reflectors on it.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta be safe. I think that's legal. You gotta
Yeah.
be legal.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Of course, every single week, 9 p.m. on Tuesdays, social media abound. We're all over the place. But
Yep.
Facebook, YouTube, check us out there. All of our links right there at the bottom of the screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics on Instagram.
Yes.
And just search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube to find our channel.
And if you want to email us, what do? You go to
Man, that's so archaic.
rmpodcast at
Peop-
redmoonproductions.com.
I think you're calling it right. You maybe you want to say that just one more time?
rmpodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Just beautiful. Look at it right there, bottom of the screen.
Pow.
RM Podcast.
Pow!
Red Moon. Pow! Does he say pow?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're Audi 5000, the Catalina wine mixer.
Oh.
Let's go! All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and he will be back next week, folks. Mr. Oh, he's here! Keith!
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.